We out here a couple of times. We looking to see everybody tonight. This is a lovely evening. This is the Finesse Show. The Finesse Show. The finessing of women. Who is the biggest finesser of women? That's what we want to get into tonight. That's what we want to discuss. That's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the finesse. For those of you unfamiliar, last night's show was about men, the biggest finesse of men. And tonight it's about women. You know why? Because we deal with equal opportunity here. And that's what all of you guys should be dealing with. Equal opportunity. Salute, cheers to all of you guys joining the live. So, equal opportunity. Information is powerful. What's going on? Who's that? Pace? Good to see you. This information is powerful because we're living in a world that they love to capitalize off of our division. Who is the they that I'm referring to? The they that I'm referring to are negative forces, negative people, people who look to take advantage. We all heard sayings like divide and conquer. From the very beginning of time, the greatest relationship that has ever been on the planet Earth is the relationship between a man and a woman. That is by far the absolute greatest relationship ever. There has never been a relationship that is greater than that, in my humble opinion. I would not say the relationship even of a father to a child, a mother to their child, is greater than the relationship between a man and a woman. In my humble opinion, the greatest relationship on the planet Earth is that between a man and a woman. It is the most dynamic. It is the most multifaceted. It is the most emotional. It is the most mental. It is the most physical. And out of that relationship spawns every other relationship. You can't have a relationship as a parent if you don't actually have the father and the mother. If you don't have that relationship of a man and a woman, this is my daughter right here, and my daughter would not be able to be here right now getting what it is that she's trying to get had it not been for the relationship between the man and the woman who she identifies as mom and dad. That husband and wife, because they've had such a magnificent relationship, that relationship then led to a daughter. There's another daughter. Beautiful young ladies that are being raised in this household. This is why it is very important that we don't look at one another and think, oh, we're not to be concerned. That's a woman's issue. As a man, I shouldn't be concerned with that. No, excuse me. You absolutely should be concerned with that. Because even if you don't have daughters, you were born of someone else's daughter. That's your mother. Your mother is someone else's daughter. And if you're a heterosexual male, you're going to engage in relationships with women. So you should be concerned because that woman is also someone else's daughter. So you should be concerned with the things of what it is that affects women. You should be concerned with the things of what it is that affects men. If you're a woman, you shouldn't say, well, that's not my business, that's a man's business. No, that's not true at all. Because if you're in a relationship with a man, what's going on? Good to see you. If you're in a relationship with a man, his health should be a concern of yours. His mental health should be a concern of yours. His happiness should be a concern of yours. Because what good is he to you if he's fallen apart? What good is he to you if he's being torn apart on the insides? If he's crumbling on the insides and you don't know it, or you are inflicting that pain that's leading to him falling apart, then what good is he to your children? What good is he to you? So it's that lack of concern for one another that has led to society being the way of how it is today. So, in my humble opinion, like I've already stated, by far, I firmly believe the greatest relationship on the planet Earth is that between a man and a woman, because that is the progenitor of every other relationship. You can't have a brotherhood without that father and mother. You can't have a sisterhood without that father and mother. Can somebody possibly tell me something different? No, you can't. That is by far the greatest relationship on the entire planet Earth, the relationship between a man and a woman, right? And from the very beginning in time, how you doing? Look at this beautiful boy. Say hi because we're on the live right now. Daddy's doing the show, right? You see this beautiful, handsome boy? Hey, say hi to them over there too. Say hi in the camera. Say hi in that camera. Hi. Right? He wouldn't be here had it not had been for the successful relationship between a man and a woman. This is my son, my youngest son, and I actually gave birth to this boy. Well, excuse me. I delivered you. I didn't give birth to you. I delivered you at home with the assistance of a midwife. You need to go tell them to turn that down because they know daddy's recording right now. So, nevertheless, what we I didn't know, it's not for you. What we are talking about is that great relationship that was broken up, right? It was intercepted, it was destroyed, it was torn apart, it was broken down. There was an interference of that great relationship. Daddy, and we should all be familiar Daddy, with that great relationship. What are you talking? I'm talking about the finessing of women. Who is it that finesses women? And we're going to find out that the one who's actually finessing women, the greatest, the biggest finesser of women, is the same being from the very beginning. In the very beginning, who was it? Who was the guilty party that sought after to finesse women, to trick them out of their high status? High status. High status. That's what Daddy said. You agree? Your brother is saying he needs something for his brother. Tell him it's okay, that he can take the car and take it. Tell him it's all right. So the greatest finesser has been the enemy of women. But there is something that has been going on, and we're going to identify who that enemy is. But that enemy comes in all various shapes, forms, sizes. This world would like to lie to women and have them believe that their enemy is men. You can't be men-centered. It's the dumbest thing that you could possibly tell a woman, is to no longer be men-centered, right? We can't live our lives men-centered. The ones who keep saying that, you know what they're doing? They're living a life that's men-centered, because all of what it is that they focus on is men. That's all they focus on. They don't focus on women's health care. They don't focus on the criminality rate amongst women. They don't focus on the fact that when it comes to the V word, there's a word that begins with a V, V-I-O, lens. You can put it together. When you're dealing with that word is predicated off of strength. So that means one person or one being is stronger than the other. And because they're a criminal, they're going to use that V word, V-I-O, lens. They're going to use that against someone that is weaker than them. So when it comes to women, when they commit these crimes, the largest targeted group of other women by a woman's crime is who? Other women. Because they're not going to scale up to men, because men are stronger than them naturally. Men are stronger, right, than women. So a woman is not going to be VIO lent to a man. We're talking about out in the public. They're not going to walk around strong arming men, because they're going to look to people who they can take advantage of, which typically that's going to be another woman or children. Studies show that, statistics show that. That's the way of how that works. So now if you're dealing with men who are engaging in that criminal behavior and they're looking to use physical force against somebody weaker than them, well, then a puny little guy that's 5'7" and weighs 110 pounds, he's not going to look to strong arm Mike Tyson. He's not going to look to strong arm Jake Paul. He's going to look to strong arm somebody weaker than him, right? That's the mind of a criminal. So we keep telling women, and I'm speaking as far as a society, that the ones who are going to do harm to them is men, and men alone. So this is why you can't be male-centered. That's ridiculous, because there are female prisons. And when there's female prisons, what is it that the women are doing inside the prisons? Are they just simply knitting? Are they sewing? Are they forming sister circles? No. There is harmful acts going on in there, just like in a male prison. Right? There is brute force. There is aggression. When you have an all-girls school, there's fighting in an all-girls school. It's not peace on earth when you only have women that are around other women. Too many times. How many videos have you seen? There's one right now in whatever the restaurant is. I think it's a fast food spot. No, it was not a fast food spot. It's a restaurant, and the waitress and all of that, and they fighting a woman in there. And you just recently had the lady who had a baby shower, the expecting mother who was robbed of her expectancy. She was robbed of her pregnancy by the people there who were other women who jumped her. And they harmed her. They used physical aggression against her. See, so a lot of times those stories, too often, those particular stories don't get covered because it doesn't fit the narrative of the boogeyman that people are out here wanting women to believe. Now, you guys heard, possibly, my daughters came in here. So I want my daughters as a father, I want them to be aware of their surroundings, period. I don't want them walking into a place and go, it's all women here. Okay, let me take my wallet, let me take my phone, let me take my keys, let me take my purse, and I'll just put it down and I can just go to sleep. No. You need to be aware of your surroundings regardless of where you're at. Stranger danger at all times, right? You're supposed to be attentive, vigilant, aware of your surroundings and who it is that can potentially be a threat to you. And that's what it is that's not being provided. So that's why we need to have this finesse show. We need to have the finesse show. I thank everybody for joining. We need to have the finesse show because over the fact that what is the greatest finesse of our young ladies, our daughters, our mothers, our aunts, our wives, our sisters, our grandmothers, right? It's not always just a man. Far too often, it's going to be the one who you trust. Now, let's get into some history. And then we're going to touch on the 4B movement. First, we're going to get into some history. The way of how we were raised when it came to entertainment, especially storytelling. We were told stories that had a moral to it. We were told stories as children that there was a lesson for you to learn. Even if those stories, there were animals in the story, or it was some form of fantasy, there was a lesson in the story. So when you have a story like Snow White, when you have a story like Beauty and the Beast, when you have a story like Princess and the Frog, when you have a story like, what's another one? Cinderella. These are stories that, all fantasy, yes, but these are stories that were being told to children to raise their awareness of somebody who may be trying to trick them, right? Somebody who's trying to trick you. And in so many of those stories, for the young women, it was the older woman who meant them harm, who were jealous, who were envious, who were covetous, who were hateful towards the younger woman because of whether it was her beauty, her intelligence, her youth. And these older women wanted to rob them of their youth, their beauty, their life of promise. They wanted to take that away from them. And that's what it was that was constantly being reiterated, that that's who you need to look out for. Now, there was something that was also being reiterated, which was that more than likely you're going to find a man and y'all can live happily ever after. So that was a goal. Now, this is fantasy we're speaking about. But what is it about those particular stories? those particular stories brung truth to the fact that, yeah, you do need to keep your eyes open. It may be somebody who's going to try to use something that y'all share in common to get you to put your guard down and to trust them. And when you go and you trust them, they're actually going to trick you. Like, for example, Snow White, right? It was a witch who tricked her. So it was somebody who was decrepit, a has-been. Life had passed them by. They were ugly, right? This ugly woman hated this youthful woman who had this life full of promise. And you had to watch out for people like that, because people like that were going to try to finesse the future generation out of their position. Now, the more I speak to that, even though that's fantasy, that's reality now. Your lives, your social media platforms, your influencers, so many of them, when it comes to women, are older women trying to trick the younger women out of their life of promise, out of their goal-orientated, objective life of which they are on. The pattern that they're trying to develop, the means they're trying to formulate for themselves, because they're not jaded, they're not bitter, they haven't been corrupted by this world, so they have nothing but promise and ambition. So now you have this older generation that failed the younger generation, and we're talking about the ones that's guilty of it, so they go to finesse the younger women out of their spot. And they get them to think, oh, you need to look out for the men. Join this movement, the 4B movement. And we're going to talk about that 4B movement, because that 4B movement makes absolutely no sense. The 4B movement makes absolutely no sense. And I was on a live last night with one host and a co-host, two women, if that's what they identify themselves as. I'm saying so respectfully, two women. And they were saying that men are the reason why women are single, and that they don't need men. And they were saying that those are some of the tenets of the 4B movement. Now, one of the things is that they refer to a particular survey and statistic, which I'm going to share with you guys. Now, that survey that they read, the co-host read, the survey was of construction sites. And it was collected by this one particular woman who said she did not go and actually was a construction worker, but what she did was she visited construction sites, and she saw that there was such a shortage of women. And her conclusion was that the shortage of women was because of the fact that women would be harassed, or inappropriate comments will be made to the women on the construction sites. Therefore, that is the reason why you have such little women, not little in size or stature, but such little amount of women who are involved in construction, who choose to take construction as a career path. And what do you guys think about that? Do y'all agree? Do y'all think that it's the rude comments of the men on the construction site why more women are not inclined to be involved in construction? What do y'all think? Because this is one of the things that they were using to justify the necessity of the 4B movement. Another thing that they also referred to was that statistically, more women feel that they have been taken advantage of, or inappropriate comments have been made to them on the workforce. and that is going on at such a high rate, this is the reason why there is this movement of women who think or who feel it's in their best interest to remove themselves from such environments where there is a representation of men. What do you guys think about that? Are you guys convinced? Do you guys believe that? Do you guys agree with that? Do y'all say, yeah, you know what? That's true. Now, there are some things to that. There's some nuance, and I'll deal with the construction part last. I'm going to talk about the workforce in general and the statistic. Now, so often when these particular arguments are made, especially about the 4B movement, what they do is, meaning the host or whoever is developed the platform to push that agenda, what they'll do is they'll refer to a particular study, and I don't think there's much studying going on, but they'll say that this is what represents women. But funny enough, the one who's telling you about that study, guess what? They weren't surveyed, right? So it might have been 100 women, but what is 100 women in comparison to the billions of women? If I was to talk to 100 women for the rest of the month of April, can I come with a fair conclusion that the 100 women that I spoke to in the month of April represent the billions of women on the planet Earth? Because I can only speak to people in one particular demographic. I can't speak to everyone around the globe and get a fair conclusion because there's cultural implications, there's financial implications, there's political implications, there's an implication of upbringing. We would say that law enforcement is probably a male dominated career field. However, there are many women that are in law enforcement, but a good, healthy portion of the women who are partake in law enforcement, and I'm not talking about prosecution, I'm talking about to make an arrest, right? The officers of the law. A good, healthy portion of those women have family members that were involved in law enforcement. Same thing with the military, right? That's their background. So it's a greater possibility that if you come from that background, that you would be inclined to partake in that particular career path. Whereas if you didn't, now don't get it misconstrued. We're not saying that women can't or shouldn't. What we're saying, and we're pointing out the reality of the matter, is that there are reasons over why people would feel the knack to go ahead and join something, which typically not too many of their kind do. So chances are, if my father was a mechanic and my grandfather was a mechanic, then guess what? I would probably have an interest in mechanics. So if you have a grandfather and a father, and then the father has a daughter, there's a great possibility that daughter may be interested in mechanics because she grew up seeing that. The father was dealing with the cars in the street or with the cars in the garage. So she sees that. That's what the movie My Cousin Vinny was all about. Right? My Cousin Vinny, the character, the co lead in the movie, I believe her name is Marissa Tomei, the actress's name. She grew up a mechanic. So she knew cars like the back of her hand. But every woman, generally speaking, doesn't grow up like that. So they don't have that interest. They don't have that skill set that she had. So that's something that's anecdotal. That's something that's circumstantial. So, nevertheless, when we're talking about the workforce as a whole, if you deal with any arena that is dominated by a particular sex or a particular gender, you are going to have whatever that collection of people are, and whomever that collection of people are, you are going to find a subculture of that collection of people. So if in the office it's dominated when it comes to population by women, You don't think those women make comments about the delivery man, the guy who comes and drops off the mail, the guy who delivers for UPS or FedEx or Amazon? You don't think those women have any comments to make about that man? You don't think they watch him and they get together and they see him and they talk about him and they send a email or an instant message that, oh, the guy is here, the guy with the long hair is here, the guy with the beard, you know who is here? You don't think they do that? You don't think that somebody who's not on that floor makes it her business to find something to do on that floor, maybe go make some copies because that guy is here that she finds to be attractive? You're just lying. See, so there's something called human nature. And what these people do who keep trying to finesse women out of their spot, they take human nature and then they'll try to identify and isolate human nature and make it seem as if it is against women in totality when it's not. Because women will partake in the very same thing. When it's female dominated, women dominated, like education, women will have many comments that they'll make about men because in education, you'll find, especially in larger cities, that the minority when it comes to representation is men. Male staff members are in the minority and the female staff members are in the majority. And the female staff members have nicknames, code words for the male staff member. The female teachers, the women teachers, have stories that they share about the male teacher who they find attractive. That's what goes on. So they make those comments about how his shirt may fit him, what he was wearing that day, how good he smells, and they will say those things to him because they're in their comfort zone, in their strength in numbers. So when there's more women as opposed to men, then the women will feel emboldened enough to say certain things about the men. That's natural. That's natural. When you have it the other way, when it's men, and the men are in a greater population than the women, they'll do the same thing. But they're going to watch what it is that they say to the woman directly, because again, society already has a certain barrier to protect women, which isn't necessarily allotted for men. That's why you'll have these people who want to finesse women. They're going to take advantage of that, I'm going to say, loophole that's in the societal norms because it's already expected that women are going to face these things. And they do. So we're not saying they don't. We're saying that they do. What we're saying is that it is human nature that when you're going to have more, what you think would happen in a female prison, the prisoners by far are going to dominate the numbers. So if you have a female prison, and let's say there's 800 female inmates and 5 male guards, so you see what happens. You see what it is that happens when when the numbers are dominating in your favor. You become emboldened. So in the workforce, you're going to have situations systematically, whichever direction it goes. So if it's leaning towards a heavier female population in staff or a heavier male population in staff, that's what you're going to have. You're going to have women who are going to express comments to the man. You're going to have women who are going to feel comfortable enough while engaging with a colleague that's a male. They'll put their hand on his chest, as they would say, touchy feely. A man can't get away with that. You can't do that in the office. There's a great possibility that if you have a group of coworkers and they're at the vending machine and they're just telling jokes, nothing inappropriate. We're not talking about violations and HR violations. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about adults conducting themselves as adults in the typical society, typical communities across this country. If you have a group of coworkers and they're by the vending machine in the break room, and one of the coworkers, let's say her name is Susan, she laughs at Mike's joke and she goes, "Oh my goodness, Mike, you're so funny." And she puts her hand on Mike's chest, just like that. "Oh, Mike," just like that. You think there's going to be a complaint filed against Susan for that? Do you think somebody's going to take Susan to the side and say, "Hey, Susan, you got to be careful because you did that to Mike and you don't want Mike to feel uncomfortable"? No. But if it's the other way around and Mike did that to Susan, even if Susan herself didn't file a complaint, there's a great possibility if someone else witnessed it, they would file a complaint. Or if there's cameras on the job in the office in the break room and the cameras picked it up, which there shouldn't be cameras in the break room, but nevertheless, if the cameras picked it up, they may then go ahead and file a complaint. Right? Because again, there's already this perception that's being carried out that a man's presence can lead to the discomfort of women. But if the man is engaging in the very same behaviors as what it is that a woman is behaving in, we are not looking to say, "Oh, that man was uncomfortable." Chances are you're going to look at that man and say, "Well, what did you do for her to do that? You must be leading her on. You must be giving her signals. You must be letting her believe that that's okay. She wouldn't just do it to do it. There has to be some reasoning behind it." Right? Nobody's even thinking about asking her. Nobody's even thinking about taking this man's concerns into consideration over how he may feel about that. Nobody's concerned with that. So again, these particular circumstances are used, but they're being painted with a broad brush when that's circumstantial and that'll happen anywhere and everywhere. Now let's get to the construction part, because when you're dealing with the 4B movement, the particular live last night was that, well, in World War II, when the men were at war, women were operating the machinery, and therefore you can have a society that is all women, and the planet Earth can function and can run like that. You can operate the planet Earth with all women running and operating the machinery. And whatever systems and circuits are in place to keep the Earth functioning, the mechanics of the Earth functioning, that women could do it, and we saw that in World War II. Now, the stupidity behind that is that the thing of the 4B movement is that women are not to reproduce. So that would mean if you're not reproducing, the youngest woman who's a part of that movement, the youngest population or generation of women who subscribe to that movement, once they pass away, then the earth is done. Because nobody's there to keep those systems operational. Because you're telling women not to reproduce. So how would you continue? The other thing is that the same people were saying that on the construction sites, it was such a low turnout of female construction workers because they're trying to avoid the inappropriate comments. That may very well be true, not disputing that. However, when you state that, but then you say, well, if all of the men just completely became extinct and were no longer on the construction sites, well, then the women can go ahead and facilitate those roles. But the thing is, if you're saying they're so few in number, then they wouldn't have had the preparation, neither the training to operate the machinery. So it's just this notion that's not set in logic. It's not set in practicality. It's set in fear and paranoia. And do you know who takes advantage of people by heightening their level of sensitivity and heightening their level of paranoia or instilling paranoia in its followers? Do you know who does that? Cult leaders. That's who does that. And cult leaders typically prohibit their followers from doing what? You guessed it. Procreating. They don't want their followers to procreate because over the fact that they want to be the one to procreate with the women in the cult. So they can't have however many men, even if you come in there and, hey, this is my wife and we both believe your nonsense, Mr. Weirdo. We both believe your nonsense and we want to be committed followers of it. Okay, well, your wife is now my wife and you can't reproduce with her anymore. Why is the 4B movement any different than any other cult that's popped up, was known for their foolishness, and then they move right on ahead? That's what happened. So this is to finesse the women out of their natural, godly, and appropriate state, to take advantage of their insecurities and to try to get them to believe that you have the antidote to heal them of their insecurity. Now, why is it that these particular people are able to exploit women's insecurities? Because women are vocal. Women will share their insecurities, right? Sometimes even without provocation. So a woman may share her thoughts. So when she shares her thoughts, when she shares her innermost thoughts, her concerns, her fears, especially when she does it on social media, you have these people who are watching and they look to make merchandise off of the women. So how to exploit their fears, their paranoia, right? How to exploit that and to take advantage of them because you've made me now become aware of your insecurities. So I'm going to use your insecurities against you. So I'm going to further weaken you by trying to get you to believe that your strength is in me. That's how the finesse of women goes on. What do you think pastors do? So many pastors, that's what it is that they do. If these pastors are not truly inspired by God and they're not inclined to teach and to bring a comprehension of God's word, they're out to just take advantage of you. And the biggest supporters of the church, whether it's the black church, but the biggest supporters of the Christian church are women. And the pastors, whether male or female, their platforms are all geared towards women. overwhelmingly is geared towards women to level up off of the backs of the women's pain. It's not about actually treating them, healing them, helping them. It's about how can I take advantage? How can I keep you coming back for more? Because if truly you were healed, you'll never go back. If everybody was 100% healthy, they'd never go to the doctor. The medical field would be out of business because there's no need to go. So I need you to be sick. Right? It's a virus. It's a living organism that's living off of you. The weaker you are, the stronger the virus. The tapeworm, they're going to take the nourishment that's feeding you and feed itself off of you. But not to the point where you're no longer amongst the living, but you're going to be weakened, and that's going to get stronger. That's how these particular women finesse the other women. In droves, in crowds, in audiences, in lives, in speaking engagements. Don't be men-centered. I can't believe it. In 2025, why does our life still revolve around men? Because men's lives only happen because of women, and women's lives only happen because of men. You can't, regardless of how much these people ever come out to try to separate women from men, you know what always happens? Women end up with men, and men end up with women. Because it's like gravity. Doesn't matter what people build that fly. You know what? They're all going to come down to the ground. Doesn't matter what you build that floats. You know what's going to happen? It's going to come down to the ground. It's going to land somewhere. Because that's called nature. It's natural. So it's natural for men to be attracted to women and for women to be attracted to men. It's biology that when there's an attraction amongst a man and a woman in particular, that their bodies go through changes so they can receive one another. There's things that happen to that woman's body, and there's things that happens to that man's body, the anatomy, in order for them to now be with one another based off of that attraction. You don't make that happen. You don't say, I'm going to make myself attracted to this woman. No woman walks around and says, I'm going to make myself attracted to that man. No, it happens naturally. Just like we grow, that happens naturally. Just like you learn to speak, that happens naturally. Just like you go from being breastfed to now eating solids and feeding yourself, that happens naturally. Involuntarily. Our minds are able to comprehend more the older we get. That happens naturally. So you have these fools who look to try to break that cycle and to try to separate women from men. And we're speaking about women from men in general, right? Try to separate them. But who looks to take advantage of a woman who's separated from a man? The devil does that. This is not new. This is why women understood where their power source was at when they're dealing with the negative forces and influences around the world. Because when a woman was involved in a relationship with a man, you know what it was the woman would say? I'm spoken for. Don't talk to me. Because that was her shield. And when you're living in a respectful society, that's something that people would respect. It's only now because you're in a disrespectful, ungodly society, they're going to try to put a woman down who says that. It would be a point in time where a woman could be home. She was working. She just so happened to get home before her husband. She's on the phone talking to her friend or family. Her husband comes in the house and she goes, "Girl, I got to talk to you later. Steve just came home." And the friend or family member would respect that and get off the phone. But only because you're in an ungodly, corrupt society now, they'll try to put that woman down for saying that. When that was universal. We've grown up seeing movies of this art that imitated life, where if there was a man, let's say he was a doctor or he worked in a bank, and these bank robbers came in and they were going to harm the man, what would the man say? The manager at the bank would say, "What? Please don't. I have what? A wife and kids." So you're automatically supposed to have a level of respect and admiration because over the fact that this man has a woman in his life. So I'm not going to do that to you. And that's even amongst the criminal minded. They would have respect for that. So the idea of the relationship between men and women don't weaken them. It makes them stronger. It gives them another level of protection. When you see victims of crimes, how many victims of crimes are actually a woman that is with her husband? It's very rare. But if she's away from any level of protection, then unfortunately, the probability of her being a victim of a crime, it heightens. It's me again. It's nice to meet you again. Hey, Patricia. What's up, Patricia? I hope you caught that live that I did for you the next night, because I had told you 9 p.m. the next day, but I had some real crazy stuff that had to go on. So I did one anyway. So please check it out. It's definitely good to see you. Patricia is definitely a loyal follower. I have a lot of respect and admiration for Patricia. And again, that's the beautiful relationship between a man and a woman, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be between a man and a man, men and men, women and women, women and men. We're supposed to have a community. That's what it's supposed to be. You have these sores that look to implement schisms in the body of the community and take advantage of us. Anybody can have a bad night. Anybody can have a bad date. If you ask men who date women to tell you about a bad time of what they had, if all they date is women, who you think they're going to tell you about when they tell you about a night that went wrong or a date that went wrong? All they can tell you about is women. So if you have women who only date men and you ask them about a night where things went wrong, who else could they tell you about? They can't tell you about tigers. They only date men. So if something went wrong, they're going to tell you about what went wrong with men or that particular man. But it's the ones who want to exploit the women that are going to go ahead and use that against them and try to get them to trust this particular person, which is a witch. Try to trust them, but it's not trusting them because they're going to help you. It's trusting them because they've got some merch. And if you yourself are not the merch, they've got something they're trying to sell. Or they need you to follow them so their platform grows. And it always just dies out because it's a cult leader mentality. See that? Yes, that is absolutely correct. Thumbs up to you, Patricia. That's my friend right there. Because this is what it is. You need to know the finesse of women. One of the greatest tools that a woman can have in her toolbox is people around her that are sincere. They're not looking to gain anything from her. They're not looking to take advantage of her. So when she's in her most vulnerable state, she's protected amongst those individuals. When she's in a, excuse me, a questionable state, like she's just in doubt, These are people who she can get sound advice from, not people who are just going to flatter her, use flattery. I don't know if flatter would be the right way of saying it, but are just going to use, girl, you shouldn't accept that. You're beautiful. What? What does her looks have to do with what she should accept or not accept? That's foolishness. She shouldn't accept certain things because she has a standard of herself that is not depicted or reflected by others in order for her to have this standard about herself. Because one of the greatest finesses of women, and yesterday we had the finesse show for men, tonight is a finesse show of women, to raise the level of awareness so women can know, oh, you know why you saying that? You trying to finesse me. That's what it is. I see you. One of the greatest finesses that's been pulled on women is to get them to believe that if it's self-inflicted, it's called empowerment. But if someone else is doing it to you, it's HATE, or harmful, or discriminatory, or it's not subjecting you. You need to go. Hey, definitely. I definitely thank you. I thank you, Patricia. So the finesse was, if you had a man and this man was exploiting the woman in the 3-letter word that begins with an S, he's exploiting her and she's not being compensated for her services because it's an immoral, uncivil act that she is conducting. If he is taking the money and not giving it to her, that was the biggest concern about in society. It wasn't about the woman's health at all. It was over the fact that she wasn't getting the money. That's what it was about. It wasn't about the objectifying of her. It was about the fact that she wasn't getting the money. So now society has said, well, we want her to get the money. We'll remove the man out of the equation, and now they're empowered. How is that any better? So if somebody was next to me right now, punching me in the face, and somebody said, hey, that's not right, that man should be able to say what he wants to do with his body. So they removed that person who was doing this, punching me in the face. And now they say, hey, okay, now you do it. And I just sit here punching me in the face. I'm still going to break my jaw. That's not empowered. You didn't empower me. You tricked me. And that's what it is that keeps going on over and over and over and over again. That's the finessing of women. That if we remove men from the equation, and you can go ahead and do it and start your own OF page, or you can have your day where you're going to have 50 participants or 100 participants that's going to deal with you intimately. I'm saying that to be polite. That's going to deal with you intimately. And that's empowerment. That's why we had the revolution. A song like WAP, where throughout the whole song, these are two talented artists, two talented female artists, two talented women. One of them is a mother. I don't believe Meg Thee Stallion is a mother. WAP, I'm referring to the song with Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. I don't know if Meg Thee Stallion is a mother, but I know for a fact Cardi B is a mother. I know for a fact Cardi B is a married woman. So this song was about female women's empowerment. But in the entire song, they're saying there are 304s in this house. That's the objectifying of women to refer to them as 304s. But it's not someone calling women 304s. It's women calling themselves 304s, and society completely ate it up. And people saying, yeah, that's right. This is strength in women. This is empowering of women by calling them 304s. You see the finessing, the trickery, the slickness, the slide, the cunning, the craftiness. Because the one who society has told you is your enemy, public enemy number one, you don't see them anymore, so you think everything is all good when it's not. You're being finessed and tricked. And they running numbers up on you, getting in your bag, taking what it is that you have, robbing you of your dignity. And then that's what you align yourself with. Not to keep any form of morale about yourself or any form of dignity or any form of class, to try to actually make you feel bad because you're supposed to be every woman. That's one of the worst things. You think a father, a mother should be raising her daughter to say, you're every woman. Why? That's crazy. Nobody should want to be every anything. There are women who do bad. Why would you work so hard as a woman to achieve a level of maturity, of success, of status, of accomplishment, to then look to someone who all they've ever done was look to partake in the subculture of any society and be a virus in any society, and then you're supposed to equate yourself to that? That's crazy. And that is disrespectful to the women who say, no, I have morals. I have an upbringing. I'm going to live my life in a manner that is going to be conducive and respectful for me because of the household that I come from. I have a way of living that I'm going to keep up. I have principles to myself. I have decorum. But you're going to say that she's, so somebody who's dancing on a pole, the young lady who's going to law school right now, she's supposed to look at her and see her equal? It has nothing to do about saying she's above her, but you're not supposed to look at her and say we're on the same plane. No, you're not. Do not, what did she say? Do not waste your time on bothering people. Patricia, you on it. We as people also need to respect other people, need to respect their own boundaries. See, she's on it. There's that removal of respect because over the fact that if you don't respect yourself, then other people can disrespect you. You know how you get people to disrespect you and you won't even know it? By shedding you of self-respect. How do I shed you of self-respect? By taking away shame. Taking shame away only is going to lead to a low viewpoint of yourself, a low vision of yourself. You're going to look at yourself in a lowly state. And then there's no such thing as shame. You're going to think you just deserve it. That's just how it's supposed to be. Yeah, I can go that route. No. Where is the self-respect? Where is the dignity? Where is the right pride to say that I am a person who has standards? I hold people accountable. I hold myself accountable. No, you can't just see me walking down the street and just say any old thing to me. No, you can't do that. No, you can't see me at a club or in a restaurant and think it's okay for you to put your hands all over me and touch me all over. So that's why there should be a separation from somebody like that and somebody who's dressing clothing that's revealing and you can see every intimate part of their body. Why would a woman of class want to subject herself to that? Just because it's not a man saying, hey, take this and put this on, just because it's not a man doing it, that doesn't mean you're not objectifying yourself. You're not looking at yourself in the level or through the lens of how you should. With a high value, you're looking at yourself at low value, almost like it's worthlessness. So therefore, the things that happen to people like that, it's supposed to happen to you. No, it's not. And I'm here today to say, no, it's not. That's the finessing of women. That's how they're finessing them out there. Taking advantage of insecurities, taking advantage of pain that happened in their life, trauma that happened in their life. And you think these people are your friends or they're here to help you when they're only there to take further advantage of you. because they know you put your guard down, because they don't look like the culprit, the wrongdoer from your past. So you put your guard down. And they know that. They're men and women who work hand in hand to take advantage of other women. And they're going to use a woman as the face, and the man is the brains behind the operation. Or another woman is the brains behind the operation because it's to finesse the woman. So she'll feel more comfortable around the woman. So here it is. The woman is going to go and take advantage of her. They don't care about her. They know what she's subject to because of her past. Sorry to change the topic, but I really like your earrings. I thank you, Patty. Patricia. I mean, not say Patty, but I thank you, Patricia. Patricia's commented on YouTube. She said she likes my earrings. Patricia's really cool. So again, this is why the finesse show is so serious. This is why it is an arsenal that women need to have to protect themselves in this world, in this ungodly world, by having sincere individuals around you, protective individuals around you. Doesn't mean you can't do this and you're incapable of that on your own. All of that is foolishness. Because as strong as I may be, guess what? There's things that's stronger than me. Whatever it is that I can do in my strength, how much more can I do when the numbers are on my side? Or when I have an object I can use to further protect myself. So it's not putting down or the belittling of women if a woman says, you know what? I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. What if we have another pandemic? I don't want to live alone. I want to have affection in my life. Who are these fools that's trying to put women down for desiring that? That's a natural desire. And if she doesn't want to be involved in a relationship at this time, that's respectable as well. The choice is hers. It's within reason. But this is again how we keep finding these particular people out here. And what needs to happen is that people need to identify them and point them out and say, nah, they're trying to finesse you. They're trying to trick you out of your spot. They're trying to take advantage of you. How long you been following her now? 3 years? Since you've been following her and you've been doing the things of what it is that she's been influencing you to do, how has your life benefited? How is your household any better? If you had trauma 3 years ago, what's the healing process that has taken place from then to now? Are you better today than you were then? How is your household now? Or do they want you to divide your household? Because once they divide your household, they isolate you from those protective forces around you. Now you're fair game. You're just a little lamb now that wandered away from the flock. And here comes the big bad wolf. But the big bad wolf isn't always just the big bad wolf presenting. The big bad wolf is, like God said, sometimes in sheep's clothing. And here you go, the little lamb. It's about to be slaughtered by a sheep. Because inwardly, on the insides, it's an actual wolf. A ravening, a mad, bloodthirsty wolf. And that's what happens to so many of our women. Other women take them out, never see them again. Take them on a trip, never see them again. Rob them, pew pew at them, harm them, get them to think there's a party that they're going to, and they take them somewhere, and a whole group of guys come in the room, and they sneak out the back. They put, you know what in her you know what. So you have to be careful and mindful of the flattery. You have to be careful and mindful of anyone who wants to separate you from the trusted individuals in your life. You're supposed to have healthy relationships. You're supposed to be able to gauge the and assess the threat level of an individual. Is this a friendly or is this a foe? That guy who helped me, did he really help me out of sincerity, or did he help me because he saw an opportunity and he tried to find his way in? You got to judge his method of communication with you. When does he communicate with you? Is it at appropriate hours? That's right. Friendly. That's how you know. When you're down and out, is he hoping to take advantage of your vulnerability? Or is he there to just simply be, if you need the support, I'm there to help you? But I'm not going to instigate it. You need to let me know because I'm going to make sure I keep dignity between you and me. Nothing is going to interfere with our relationship, our friendship, or our brother to sister bond. I'm not going to violate that. That's what you should have. And that's what he should have as well. You're going to get someone to think because their hair is long like yours or their hair is the same color as yours, you're going to get them to think, you're going to allow them to think that they got you and take advantage of you. You have women who get tricked out of their own home. They start looking at their spouse differently because they've been talking with some other family member who never had a household that she ran or operated with another adult, with another man. She never had a household that was led between her and a man. She never had a husband, and she's all in your ear about your marriage or your relationship. But you know why? Your relationship fell on hard times. And you expose your vulnerability to her, hoping that she would agree with you to justify your actions. She was biased. So that's why you look to her and not a impartial person, someone who was exercising in neutrality. You look for a person that would have been on your side, and now this person is telling you all of the right things that your ears need to hear. And now that you're looking at your boyfriend like he's trash. And you know what? You need to leave him. And then she takes advantage of you, ruins your credit, takes money from you, asks you for money for a parlay and tells you that if she hits, she's going to give you some. And then when she hit, you can't find her. You don't know because you don't even know that she hit because she ghosts you. And then 3 months later, you find out from another source, whether it's another family member or another mutual friend, that she hit big a couple of weeks ago. And she got all of this money. And you're like, really? Wow. That's what happens. This is what it is that happens, y'all. So the finesse show, the finesse of women, you got to look out for it. Every woman who you see on the internet, every woman who you see with the live, every woman who you see that has these platforms, they're not really out here to empower you. They're to empower themselves. And they empower themselves by weakening you. And somebody who's not looking for something from you, like me, has no quarrels, no qualms with sharing that with you because that's what we all need to know, who's out here to take advantage of us, who's out here to cause division. Why exactly do you want to cause division amongst us? Why do you want women to hate men and men to hate women? Why do you constantly stir up things in that space? Why is it that if you can refer to a negative situation that took place between a man and a woman, you never ever refer to the positive that took place between a man and a woman? Why is it that you only have slurs or hateful terms like a pick me They would look at a woman who's been married for 45 years. That means she's successful at something. She has success at this thing. And you would look at her and say she's a pick me. But you can't even be in a relationship with a man for 45 minutes. And this woman is who you look down on? Stop. So I definitely thank all of you guys. Patricia, you know, it's always a beautiful thing when you come in on the live. I thank you so much. I thank all of you guys for checking in. I was saying thank you. So I thank all of you guys for checking in on the live. We've been at it, like 70 minutes. We got an hour plus 10 minutes. It's a beautiful time. Got other affairs need to tend to. The finesse show of women. Ladies, ladies, be careful. You got to watch yourself out there, okay? All of these people out here, they're not your friend. The 4B movement is only being orchestrated by cult leaders. That's what they're trying to get y'all to do. I've had conversations with them because I don't have problems speaking with people who I don't agree with. I can be as polite and I can be as, accommodating as possible. And I don't subscribe to agree to disagree. No, I just don't agree. I don't need to agree to disagree. And I'm fine if you don't agree. I'm fine with that. I mean, what is the painting in the back's name? Okay. That's called Wired. Original DMC is the artist who did that. It's called Wired. Check out her artwork. She's a phenomenal artist. She's done artwork all across the country. She's selling pieces. She does home decor. She does doors. She does coasters. She calls them co-stars. This is one of her early pieces. This is a piece from 2018. She's definitely on Instagram. Check her out. You're welcome. Check her out. She's on Instagram, and I believe it's Original DMC Art. Her works have been shown on Candy. If y'all know Candy from Escape fame, Candy, the producer, songstress, writer, award winner. I think Candy also does real estate, right? If I'm not mistaken. But Candy's a phenomenal talent in the game. But nevertheless, her artwork meant much more than this. I have several of her pieces. Her artwork was shown on that. She's in magazines. She's been all throughout New York City. She has events almost, I think, basically weekly, especially women's events where her artwork is showcased. So, like I said, she's got trays, like dinner trays and things like that. She's phenomenal. She's definitely a beautiful talent, and that is one of her pieces right there. It's called Wired, and I've had that for some time. Original DMC. Check her out on Instagram. I don't know any other handles or pages she may have, but she's definitely on there, getting a lot of traction, making a lot of noise with the stuff of what she does, and I hope for her success or her continuance of success, because she's definitely successful already. So that's what that is. But I thank you, Patricia, for asking. And it's called Wired, Wired. And that is one of her original pieces. So, all of you guys, I thank you guys. Ladies, definitely please watch out for the finesse. It's not only men that's out there trying to finesse you, it's men, it's women. It's if you're a child, if you're a little girl, you have to educate your daughters to the finesse that other little girls are trying to get them to partake in, right? These are the things that happen. Sorry, I have to go. Maybe next time I will join a little bit early. That's cool, Patricia. I definitely appreciate your participation. You always add and keep the conversation going because we're about to call it a wrap anyway in about less than a minute. So I thank all of you guys for joining tonight's live. Everybody on YouTube, everybody on TikTok. Definitely check it out. Casted Crowns Inc. This is what it is that we do. Life needs more uplifting, more wholesome, more guidance. We have so much negativity already to just feast on, but they're not trying to give us positivity. They're trying to rob us of the light. They're trying to get us to attack one another. And the more we're looking at one another, we don't really understand the subjugation that we're facing. We don't understand the tactics and the warfares that's being used against us. by our greater enemies, the ones that formulate ideas and concepts, the ones that put millions of dollars behind programs that look to further destroy an already fractured relationship. Communities are built from within. Communities are built from the household. So many of us tend to think that the strong community is just the community. No, communities are inside out, not outside in. So if the households are weak, then the community is going to be weak. You can't have a strong community with weak households, but you got to have a strong household by having strong members of the household. And it starts with the family. Everybody was born into a family. Even if you have a foster family, you are fortunate enough, and hopefully you have a good foster household. That's another subject for another time. But hopefully you do have a good foster parents, right? That's positive, that care for you, that love you. And then you was fortunate enough to not be left alone, to actually have someone to step up to the plate and take care of you. So we all belong to something else. But the greatest enemy of all of us always wants to isolate us from everything else, everyone else, and that's how it is they take advantage of us. By getting us to believe or to think that we are truly hated by anyone and everyone, and that's all we deserve is hate. It's simply just not true. So I thank all of you guys. Cast the Crowns Inc. Double tap the screen, share the live, heart the live. Thank you guys for everything of what it was that you did, everything of what it is that y'all did tonight. Y'all are the audience that I'm here for. Appreciate all of you guys.